All right, everybody. Well, welcome to the first Wednesdays of what month is it? July 2021. I'm Gretchen Heido, Master Coach. I'm so glad to see all of you tonight. What we were going to talk about is comparing and despairing, and how a lot of times we are comparing ourselves to others, to their outsides and what we know of them on social media and with what they project into the world. And then we're despairing about the way that we feel due to who they appear to be. You know, as coaches, a lot of times what you might find is that in a room of coaches or in a group of coaches that you may feel less shiny, or you hear about a dollar amount that a coach is charging and you think, well, how in the world are they charging that? And you tell yourself a story about what it might mean about you, positively or negatively. If it's that you think they're too low, then you think you're better than. If you think they're too high, then you think you're terrible. And what I'd like to do tonight is just kind of take your questions and set up some scenarios about where comparing and despairing gets in your way, and give you some ideas about what you might be able to do to really create a stronger way of being. So I'll give you a story. When I started this business, I really had no idea what coaches charge, just zero. I didn't know. I just made it all up as I went. And you know, most all of you on this call know me, and I'm really good at just making it up. So I just made a decision and decided. And then I heard what coaches were really making, and I was like, wait, what? You can charge how much money for coaching? And I talked to a really high level coach, and he said, oh yeah, coaches charge this fee all day long, $50,000 all day long. And I was thinking, are you like, what do you get for that? Do I get a masseuse? Do I get a chef? Like, what's going to be happening for this amount of money? And how do you get it? Like, if he could get it, I could get it because I can sell anything. Like, why not? And he taught me, you know, he said, I want you to slow way down on your next call and see what happens. And so he and I hung up. I had my next call and I sold my first $25,000 a year client, which prior to that I was charging 12. So it was a huge jump from one conversation. But what happened for me was I was reading about what coaches made. I was hearing about what coaches made in this particular group of coaches. And I was viewing myself as not good enough because of what I was charging. And so let's just talk about that for a minute. And you don't have to say your fee, but how do you feel when you hear about what other coaches charge, and how has that affected you in your coaching business? I see the thoughtful stares. Who wants to go ahead, Carrie?
I'm ready. I think I've gone back and forth on this because there are coaches that I really admire, like you, and other coaches that charge quite a bit more than I do. So I say to myself, well, I'm not at that level. I'm not yet that experienced, or I don't know, just I'm not as good of a coach as that person. So I can't justify charging that. And then I go the other way where, like, I know some coaches that kind of call themselves coaches, but they haven't had any real training and they're charging 2 or 3 times what I'm charging. And I'm going, what? Like,
Yeah.
if they're getting that, why am I not charging more? So it's this weird kind of, I find myself kind of in the middle, just, but definitely comparing all the way around,
Yeah.
and maybe still not charging what I'm really worth, which is a whole other topic.
Yeah, but it does fit in this. You know, we do the compare and then we decide who we are in the coaching world, and we feel bad or we feel good about it. Who else wants to share on this?
I completely second what Carrie just said.
Say a little more, Adam.
Uh, there is definitely wanting to get more clients under my belt before I start charging more, and seeing when somebody does charge a lot more than I do. There's a line from a TV show. They're charging $500 for a parrot. He says, that must be a really good parrot. So just kind of looking at the value of something based on what they charge, or value of someone's work based on what they charge, and I don't feel that I'm at that level yet. but I think that's really subjective.
And I love that, what you just said about the parrot. That must be a really good parrot, right? Because when we hear about something being expensive, many times we right away decide it has to be, they must be really good. They must be really good. And I don't know about you, I've paid for very expensive services at different times, and sometimes they were just okay. How many of you have had that experience? And then you were kind of mad actually that you paid that much and it was just okay.
So there's that. There's right. Like if you're going to charge that, you need to give that value. And so you have to have the confidence that that's the level of value you're giving. The struggle that I'm having with is people that I know charging less and then pitching it as it's their philosophy. Like I have a friend who you know, Gretchen, who should charge more. And when she hears my rate, she's like, ugh. And she charges 150 a session because she believes that coaching should be accessible. And people deserve coaches. And I'm like, yes. And also, I want to be making $500,000 a year.
Yeah. And so when you hear that, how does it make you feel about your desire to want to make $500,000 a year compared to her desire that coaching's for everybody?
Oh, I get the impression that she has judged me as being selfish.
Right. And then how does that affect you in your own pricing?
Well, so I struggle with it at times because now, so I have raised my rate, but there are times when there is a client that I'm having a session with, and I know they're barely paying bills. They cannot afford my full rate. And I really want to work with them. So the way I solve it is I keep a couple scholarship options open for people that I really get excited about that can't afford my full rate, but I make it very clear that they're getting a special discount, and I still make it uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
Right. So if they go, well, I'm comfortable paying 7, I go, okay, well, it's going to be 9.
Exactly. Because the stretch point, and you said a few things there. When someone is charging a higher rate, we oftentimes perceive that there must be a lot of value. In coaching, what we should all know about at this point is that it's up to the client to create their results. I wrote something down today that I thought was really interesting. It says, the results you get are perfect for the systems you've created. So with your clients, the results they get, they're perfect for the systems that they've created. And in your own life, the results you're getting are perfect for the systems that you've created. So I want to spend some time there for a minute. When I think about the results that I get being perfect for the systems that I've created, we all have our mind chatter. We all have the places where we sabotage ourselves and where we play small or where we have excuses, the excuse loop. Well, I can't do that because whatever. And we can't do it because, well, the results that we get on that are perfect for the story that we're telling ourselves. So think about your own pricing for a minute and the story that you tell yourself about your pricing. So just take a moment, think about it. You can write it down. And then think about these goals that you have, the monetary goals that you have, and the gap that's there. Because for a lot of us, we want whatever that next level is, but the results that we're getting are perfect for the system that we've created. So Carrie C, when you shared, the results you're getting are perfect for the system that you've created of the comparing, right? It's perfect for it. Or the feeling like, well, I'm not quite at that level. I'm not here. I'm not there. I trained you. You're an excellent coach. You can charge whatever you want. And you can charge it. You have to believe it. You have to believe it. That's the truth. So my system that used to be in place was, well, no one will pay that. That was the system. No one will pay that. I would never pay that. No one will pay that. When I learned that people do pay that and that they're normal people and whatever your that is. Okay. So whatever your that is, just fill it in for yourself. When I learned that some people pay $100,000 for a coach, first of all, I was floored. I was like, what is the coach like? What are they doing? Do they take you on like a private jet on vacation? Do you want to go on vacation? What's happening? It's none of those things. It's just very normal coaching, but it's the client that shows up ready to make that 100 grand, you fill in the blank of your number, worth it 100%. So for me, when I believe that people would not pay more than $3,000 for 3 months to work with me, I was right. It was perfect for the results I was creating. They wouldn't pay more because I wouldn't say that they should pay more. I didn't believe that they should pay more. And I didn't think that I had the skills to earn more. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe anyone would ever pay more than that for coaching because why? You're just talking to someone. What's the point here? So I had to change my mindset. I had to change my own system. One of the things that I went out and did is I paid someone an exorbitant amount of money, what I felt was just way too much money for coaching so that I could make way too much money for coaching too. I changed the system. I had to make it so uncomfortable for myself that it became normal. And now it's my system. It's like, no, people do pay this. And I really believe that they pay it. There's no trick involved. They're not very different than any of us on this call. And they do pay it. It's the presentation of the way that you display it and then the way that you show up as a coach. But I needed to change my system so that I could change my circumstance. So what did you hear in that? And what clue did you maybe get for yourself about something that you could change to either up your rate, feel different on the inside, wherever you're getting stuck?
The message coming through for me is like, I need to get out of my comfort zone with my own coaching, what I pay for my own coach, and what I'm asking the people I work with to pay me.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's got to get uncomfortable here. This is not like, if I'm comfortable, I'm not growing.
Yeah.
And that's what I wrote about my price. Like, I'm comfortable with that price, but that means I should probably double it. I actually wrote double that's what I need to move it to. Yeah.
When will you have the next opportunity to do that?
I mean, I can change it right now in my mind and say, this is what I charge. I don't have any enrollment calls scheduled, so I don't know.
Okay. But you can make enrollment calls happen by turning on the faucet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's say next week.
Good. Good. Practice saying your new number out loud many, many times until it just sounds like any other word. You have to lose the charge of that number. I said, how much money? Oh my God. What are these people? They're going to think I'm so selfish. They're going to think what? You got to take that out of your mind in order to change your system.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me know how that goes.
I will.
Yeah. Who else wants to share on something that you need to change in your system to get a different result?
I need to change the assumption that everyone has the same perspective I do.
Say more.
So to my mind, my rate is expensive. Like, it's a lot of money. And I was sharing it with a friend of mine and she was like, what do you charge? And I told her, and she's like, really? That's not bad. And I was like, wait, what? And then I just realized that I was at her husband's birthday party over the weekend and everybody in that room makes over $500,000 a year. And so my rate to them is nothing. 15,000 to, if you're making $500,000 a year, is nothing.
So what would you change in your system?
The pond I swim in.
That's what I was just thinking. Get in that room.
Yeah.
Get in that room where that's, maybe something for a 3-month contract, 4-month contract, but not a year contract.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. When we change the system, opportunity is everywhere. But what I will say is this, changing the system had to start with me. Everyone's talking about the uncomfortability level. I had to invest and see what that level, because I had a lot of ideas of, okay, if I'm going to pay $50,000 for coaching, what is she going to do for me? And I came in with it wrong too. Like, what's she going to do? She made it very clear she wasn't going to do anything. She's not, I'm going to coach you. That's what I'm going to do. Your results are up to you. And they're a direct correlation to your system. So we worked on my system. And that's the thing that this coach and I did, because I came in like, okay, I paid you. Now what? What are you going to do? And she was like, oh, First of all, Gretchen, we're not doing it that way. Second of all, let's talk about your system. So it got a lot into my beliefs too about what's right and wrong with charging. So Carrie W, for your friend who she wants it to be accessible to everyone and, it should only be this much money. That's fine. And that's her system. And I know when I started, I felt some guilt about, but aren't we supposed to help people? And helping things feel like they're supposed to be free and whatever it is. So I had to look at my beliefs on that. Who says it has to be free? Free for who? Does free really help? So there was a lot of challenging the belief and challenging my system. Tara, what about you? Do you want to share?
I wish I could, but I'm not at that stage yet. I do think I need to think about how I'm going to start coaching, at what rate. I do feel like I've had extensive training, so it's not an issue on that. It's just, the enrollment calls, that's probably the seminar I should attend, but I wanted to show up today because I'm always fascinated with your perspective. So.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. And Tara, just from knowing you the way I do, I wonder if the system that you need to change, and tell me how this lands, is to not need to be the student. Because like you said, you like to do a lot of training and instead be the coach. That no longer the student, sure, have a coach and do whatever you're going to do, but you take a lot of different classes and a lot of different things. I wonder if that's the system where you get lost.
Definitely, and I'm ready to step into that role.
So that'll be your system to change. And so here's the other thing. Doesn't always have to be about money. I use the money analogy because that's the one that usually gives people like a feeling of I'm not good enough or I'm great or whatever it is, that we size ourselves up in a room by how much we charge. And then the other thing that I think is so interesting in the coaching industry too is all the secrets about what you charge. Just all the secrets and people not wanting to say what they charge, especially to other coaches. And it's so funny, right? Because the minute that price gets dropped, there's lines drawn. Like, oh, well, she must think she's, I don't know, fill in the blank. Oh, well, this guy, he really should charge more, fill in the blank. So we're constantly judging, but what we're really doing is judging ourselves against their prices. So to step into your next price level, and Tara, for you, whatever your price level is going to be, wherever you are on your journey, what would it require from you on the inside, in your way of being? What needs to change in your system there?
I would just say a level of empowerment. After doing this latest training, I feel like I'm ready to go. So it's just kind of just having it come together that I know enough and I can present that out in the world in a meaningful way and ask for the price that I feel is right for my coaching.
I love that you said, I know enough. That's really going to help you internally with changing your system. Yeah. Who else? What needs to change internally in your way of being to change your system?
I definitely need to watch my thoughts. That's probably where it is. And really just pay attention to what's circling in there. Because I think that I don't know, something about thinking about this new price and saying I'm worth it. I'm a professional. I'm a professional coach, embodying that, thinking it, feeling it, believing it, then taking it out into the world. Or not even that, because I'm going to have to take it out into the world to probably continue the cycle. I knew you were going to ask me about that. So yeah, but definitely paying attention to my thoughts, because I really believe that creates our reality.
It does create our reality. And here's the deal. Your thoughts are a good roadmap to where the holes are. So you said something about professional, to be a professional. I felt that way too, that, wow, this would require me to be to go from $3,000 to $25,000. This would require a whole different skill set. That wasn't true. I already had the skill set. I just hadn't tried on the new price. But amazingly, when I gave that new price, my skill set, my approach, my ability to be present shifted because I was willing to give more for that price. It was like, if they're going to pay me this, I need to be completely on point. I was good at the $3,000 level. And especially at the beginning, you're glad to get any money, right? You're just like, oh, someone paid me, I'm going to show up. It's great. But that wears off. And then you're like, yeah, okay, it's fine. But when I was paid a professional fee, a true professional fee, I showed up better. The other things I did were surround myself with other professionals. So this is where it's really important to be in a community of coaches who are doing professional work and to have your own coach. So for many coaches who don't have coaches, what happens is they want to sell the business of coaching, but they have not yet demonstrated that they believe in it for themselves. Or they believe in low fee coaching, and there's a real disconnect then in wanting to get that higher fee. So we need to make sure in our being that we're in alignment with what we want to present into the world. So Carrie W., were you going to share something?
Yeah, I figured out I have to get rid of the idea. It's a common saying that we've all heard, and I've kind of adopted it. It's worth what someone will pay for it.
Yeah.
Which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because then we lower and we go, okay, well, that's what someone's willing to pay, so that's what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So we devalue it, and I think that that's where I get stuck, because it is true, right? It's worth what someone will pay for it, but what if I believe it's worth more?
So what if you do believe it's worth more?
Well, by that logic, then I'm the wrong one, unless I'm willing to pay that for it.
Mm-hmm. So this becomes a right or wrong for you.
Yeah. And it also becomes a proving of the value, not in like I have to prove it with my ability to coach, but you're a $25,000 coach when somebody pays you $25,000.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that external validation that we kind of have to experience to really believe it. But the tricky part is we have to believe it before we can get that external validation.
True. You know, when I took the leap, and thank you for sharing that, I didn't know if I believed it. I didn't know, but I knew that I wanted to crack the code on this, that if people who, you know, credential wise, I had far more credentials than, were earning this amount of money and I know how to sell and I'm comfortable with it, then why not me? And I was not comfortable plunking down that money. I almost threw up, to be quite honest. My heart was racing. Talk about the conversation that you have to have at home with your spouse about that much money. Like, that's not just like, oh yeah, I took some money from the savings. That's a lot of money. That's down payment on a house money. And when I did that, it made me completely ready to step into this new way of being, that regardless of what happened with coaching with this coach, I knew that I would be ready to attract the sort of person who would pay that fee, because I wasn't going to take less anymore. It was like, I'm on to the next one. It's okay if they don't want to work with me because I'm saving this seat for someone who does. And when you're charging more, you don't have to fill as many seats. That's just the other part of it.
So that,
oh, you're muted.
I was going to say that kind of ties into the conversation the other day of, if you want to level up your coaching business, you have to level up your life.
Yes, that's exactly right. So what are the other areas, let's talk about this, where you need to level up your life? Because coaching's only, our business is only one section, right? And we have a lot of noise, just like our clients do in life. Where do you personally need to level up your life? There are things that need to be tightened, to be taken from an intention to a commitment, or some mess that you have to, you know, close the loop on because it's something that you're tolerating.
I'm giving other people a chance, but I thought about this and it really hit home. For me, it's my health. It's my size and my health.
Mm-hmm.
I use it as a subtle form of sabotage. I use it as a laziness. And if I want to level up my business, then I need to have the strength and endurance physically to support that life I want to be living.
Yes.
So once I realized that, which happened like 6 weeks ago, everything changed.
How have things shifted?
I'm on a food program that's a pretty rigorous food program, but it's not hard to stay on right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not tempted. I haven't had one bite off program with people, eating and drinking things and handing it to me. And it's not a struggle to say no right now. I've gotten consistent with my working out because those are the things that someone who has the business I want to have does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good to have the modeling. It's really good to have the modeling and to see what people who we perceive to be at the level where we want to go next to see what they do. So you all know that I'm big fans of Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. I wanted to figure out, what do they do? What is it that they do? So Rich Litvin right now, he's on a 9-week vacation where he's not talking to any of his clients. That's amazing, right? So I'm going on a 3-week vacation where I'm not going to talk to any of my clients. I was just on a 10-day and I didn't, have a lot of client involvement. So we start to mimic and we pick up the things and we see those spiritual giants or the coaching giants who we perceive to be like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be like this one. What are the things that they do? Steve Chandler, he has a lot of fun in his life. He really does a lot of like play and leisure and music. And so when I learned that, I adopted more of that. One of my mentors, her work week, I love the way that she sets it up. She takes half of Thursday off to do all of like the stuff that you keep putting off every day. And then it gets to be Thursday and you have to do it. And then all of Friday off, just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's just what she does. I've been doing that for over a year now, and every time I felt the squeeze that was like, but how am I going to do that and see my clients? How am I going to do that and have enough time? You know what I did? I wrote a book with those Fridays off. That's what I did. So things happen even when we don't believe that they can, but we have to pick someone to mimic and who can coach us in a way that it's like, yeah, I want what that person has, and I want to learn what they've done, skill level wise, coaching wise, income wise, habits wise. One of the things I learned from Rich Litvin was to close the loop. And what that meant was, what are the things in my head that are like open conversations, like that little pebble in your shoe that it's there and you keep going back to it. You don't like it. You should just take the pebble out, but you leave it there. You just keep touching it and touching it. And there were so many things in my personal life. I had to have some conversations with my husband about finances that were super uncomfortable, but we did it. We did it. I had to close the loop on that. I had to close the loop on an organization that I work for about things I was willing and not willing to do and for what price. Instead of just having these like conversations in my head with my husband or this business owner over and over. So our open loops are also places where our energy we lose it. We could be putting more energy into other places. So take a moment. What are maybe your top 3 open loops personally and professionally? And I'd encourage you to write a list of 50 open loops if you can think of them, not during this call, but that's one of the things that Rich Litvin does. You write down as many open loops as you can think of. And then the next thing you think about is, what are you tolerating? I had so many things in my life that I was just tolerating how my kids got to school. I hated that whole conversation, tolerating dinner. What's for dinner? I never wanted to talk about what was for dinner again for as long as I live. What are the things that you're tolerating? Because those are your drains as well. That when we have these drains that we really do have the power to change, but we feel like they're irritants and this can never be solved. It's not true. It can be solved. It can be solved.
Gretchen, can you give us more examples of open loops?
Yeah, so your open loop is any kind of a conversation or something that's undone that you keep going back to. It's pesky and your mind brings you back to thinking about it. So I had an open loop. This is going to sound really silly, but this is an open loop about our garage. Garage is a mess. It's a mess. And this is an open loop for me because I would always think about this messy garage and how much I thought we should do something about this messy garage. I've cleaned the messy garage and then it just gets messy again. And what I decided was I was going to close the loop about that. I just don't think about it anymore. I go in there, I walk around things and I do my best, but I don't let it bother me anymore. I closed the loop on it and just came to the decision that if it were going to get cleaned one more time, it wasn't going to be by me. Like, I'm just not going to, and not in a mad way, like not going to be cleaned by me, just I'm not going to do it. I have a lot of other things to do and I don't have to care. But I cared for so long that some people have like these beautiful cabinets in their garages that are organized. I'm comparing myself again, compare and despair to your garage, you know, not just to what money you make, but to your garage. And I had to close the loop on that. That was an open loop. Open loop could be about my child's school, where he should go to school. What school should he go to? How should he go to the school? How will he get to the school? I had to close the loop by making a decision. So sometimes our open loops are also self-propelled that we need to make a decision and we don't, we stay in limbo. So where is there a decision that you need to be made, that needs to be made? That's also an open loop. Does that help, Carrie? Yeah. And go ahead, Carrie C.
That reminds me of a to-do list that I had at my old job. I had like this running to-do list, and then I would clean it up and I would like transfer it to a new piece of paper or whatever, type it out. And there would be things on there at the bottom that had been on there for like a year or 3 years or 5 years. And I finally went, why am I carrying this over? I'm clearly not going to do this. If it was important, I would have done it. Well, not necessarily, but you know what I mean? I closed that loop in the way you did with the garage. I just crossed it off. Like, I have no intention of doing it, so I'm not going to keep it on my list.
It's
So just
great.
be
What
honest
I
about that.
exactly, and what I call that is the I won't list. That once you close the loop, you put it on your I won't list. We've all heard of the to-do list. We write them mostly every day, whatever. But if you have an I won't list, it's the stuff like the garage, the things that were on your list for over a year. For me, it's photo albums. You know, I've got these kids. I feel like I'm supposed to be keeping all of these albums. There are way too many pictures to print and to do with cell phones. I can't print. I'm not going to do it. It's just on my I won't list. If I want to print a picture, I'll print one. It's fine. Oh, well, you know, and to let myself off the hook so that I can be creative, because we avoid leveling up because we're thinking about these open loops. So on your day off, on that Friday off, on that Thursday off, if I'm too busy thinking, well, I should be cleaning the garage, and I have that feeling, or damn, those photo albums, oh my God, he's 17 now and I haven't done one since he was 4. It feels too overwhelming. It's too big. Then I'm not writing my book because I'm thinking about a photo album that I'm never going to do. Never. So it's on my I won't list. You know, when my kids went to preschool, there were a lot of Pinterest moms, and that's fine. I just don't happen to be one. Or the moms who make cupcakes out of like 25 different ingredients. I don't even know how you can get that many things in there. And I just go to Ralph's and like buy the thing and show up. I had to close the loop on that too and stop comparing myself. So those places, those are open loops that drain your energy. You can think of them like holes in the boat. Is this sparking for you guys? It's helpful. Yeah. And these are the places too that our open loops usually are some kind of a comparison to. Oh, well, if I had it together, my garage would be clean. Oh, well, if I were one of those kind of moms, I don't know, bake. I bake now because I don't care. I'm not concerned about it, but it's amazing how your open loops almost always are some kind of a comparison and an opportunity to beat yourself up. And that's what we want to avoid, is the self-beat, because when we're doing that, we're not sparking at our highest function level. And we certainly aren't attracting clients that are going to pay us these sums of money that we say we want. So you have to close the loop. And it's the same thing with things you tolerate. I had things I was tolerating about myself, about my behavior. I had to really do some work on that with my coach about the things I was tolerating about me, about engagements that I would say yes to and then immediately dread, like, if like, oh yeah, I can do that. And I get off the phone like, ugh, what lie am I going to tell to get out of this one as I'm hanging up the phone? So anything that you're tolerating, those are all things that you want to take off your list. You're probably just not going to do it, and it doesn't bring out the best version of yourself. So as coaches, we go first. We have to do these hard things first so that as we coach people from enrollment call to the coaching engagement, we can say, yeah, I really get that. When my clients say that's a lot of money, I say, yep, I know. The first time I paid a coach this much money, I thought I was going to throw up. I had a complete panic attack. I understand. Don't do it unless you're 100% certain it will work for you. It's too important. But if I hadn't felt that, how would I know? How would I know? If I hadn't closed the loops in my own life, how can I ask somebody else to close the loop on theirs? So as coaches, we need to constantly be leveling up in our professional and personal lives so that we can bring our best to the coaching relationship, and so that we can create a space for our clients to walk into their own vision. If we haven't done it with our vision, how are they going to know? How are we really going to hold a container for them to do it for themselves? So let me just pause there. What's coming up for you as I say this? Adam, what about you?
I can't really think of anything current, but I do remember coaching with Carrie C probably over a year ago, and there was something that I was just stuck on, a business venture that had never taken off, and I just had it in my mind and it was holding me back from a lot of things, and it was sort of outside my control what I could do with it. She had asked me, like, what would it mean to just let it go or something to that extent, and it felt so freeing just to let that one go and just let that be part of the past and just focus that energy elsewhere.
Yeah, good. Amy, do you want to participate? I know that you didn't want to show your face, but would you like to share?
Hi, sure. I couldn't get the video working. I don't know if it'll
Oh,
work
that's
now.
okay.
Oh,
There
there it
you
goes.
are. Hi.
Hi. It's just a little dark here.
You're
Sorry.
okay.
I look like black and white. Um, well, I haven't done much with the coaching since the certification class program. And I feel like when I think about it, it always pops in my head, like I've made some not so good decisions, I'm sure, in a lot of people's eyes. So I'm constantly trying to stop myself from disqualifying myself
Mm-hmm.
because of things that I didn't choose wisely. You know what I mean? Like, how will somebody look at my life and say, how is she qualified to do what she says she can do? But then I say, so I have to kind of work on that some more.
Yeah.
And it's also a matter of, it's also a part of how you know how to make good decisions when you make mistakes sometimes, right?
So I wonder, when you think about that, if you were to change that system, that, who is she to say she's qualified to do this thing? How would things shift for you in your career?
I would think it would be beneficial, yeah.
And
Because back to what you're all saying before, it's, if you don't believe that about yourself, no one's going to buy what you're serving, That's a weird way to put it, but they're not going to believe.
Yeah. And you've had some big careers. You've had some really interesting careers.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then COVID kind of interrupted this whole progress on this. So, and double hip replacement, right? So
Yeah.
I'm finally back to this now. And yeah, I think I do have a lot of experiences but I gotta just turn that script off in my head, change it, keep working on changing it,
And closing the loop, just closing the loop on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, and thank you for sharing, Amy. When we hear that voice that is giving us our loop, it's really nice just to label it. How many of you do labeling work with your clients where you have them label whatever the behavior is or label what they're seeing? Anyone? Yeah. So one of the things with labeling that's important is that if you can label it like, oh, there's my story again. Oh, there's my protector again. Wow, that protector is really loud today. Really thinks taking Friday off is a bad idea. Wow. Okay. If they can label it, if you can label it, what it means is that your feeling does not need to hook into creating a story. If it doesn't have to hook into creating the story, it doesn't need to take an action. So when we follow our feeling and we hook it in without labeling it, and we're just like, oh my God, oh yeah, I guess I shouldn't take Fridays off because I'll never make money again. And then nothing's ever going to happen. Whatever your litany is that goes on, your internal dialogue, it gives you a feeling, could be panic, it can be anxiety. It's usually not like a great feeling. It's one of the lower feelings. And then we want to take an action on that. If you can do the pattern interrupt quick, it's just like, oh, wow, Judger's loud today. Huh, Judger thinks people in my house are idiots. That's interesting. Do I feel like getting in a fight with my husband about this or not? No, probably not. Okay. Not going to hook into the feeling or the story or take an action. And then you can get busy doing something else, something that's going to bring you to a higher mindset. So use your labeling tools too, that, oh, this is this. And one thing that I have found helpful is to kind of name your different stories or your different ways of being. So for me, can be that judger that can be really loud. It can be a controller. It can be my overachiever. And just depending on which one's at play, if I'm feeling something really strong, I take a minute to check in like, oh, is that me or nope, that's overachiever. No, I still take Fridays off. Overachiever just thinks I don't. No, I'm going to do that still. And that way I don't have to get hooked. So that can be something too, because when we're doing the compare and despair, our negative voices can show up and tell us, well, you better do it anyway, because if you don't, if they found out about your garage, if they this, if whatever it is, then this thing will happen. None of it's true. It's just a story. So maybe that can be helpful to you as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. And going all in when you are trying to up level in any way for all of you, personally or professionally, it's really about making the commitment, not just the intention. Intention's really like, well, I hope I can do it. I hope I can write my book. I hope I can make $500,000 a year. I hope. That's nice. You're not going to get it by hoping. You have to make a commitment, and commitment does not care about feelings. Commitment's a commitment to your word, regardless of how you feel about it. If you have decided that you're going to do it and you take the intention, and to make it a commitment, you have to come up with a structure to support that commitment. So with the book, I've been talking about the book for really a very long time. I thought 5 years. My good friend reminded me, no, like 20 years. I was like, oh, well, thanks for that. Thanks for the mirror. Are you the coach? She's like, I should be. And here's the deal. What finally happened for me is I had to make the commitment. My commitments always involve money. I had to pay a coach, not just the one coach I have, a specific coach for writing books so that I could get it done, and it got done in 12 weeks. But I had a commitment. She didn't care about my excuses. She didn't care. And I had a lot of things happen in the 12 weeks like we all do, but I got to notice all my stories, all the reasons, all the things, all those narratives I had to just label. Oh yeah, that's your protector. Oh yeah, that's your laziness. Oh yeah, that's this, and not follow it and get my commitment done. So think of for yourself, what commitment do you need to make from an intention that you've been talking about for a long time, thinking about for a long time, but it's time to really do something about it. Pick a commitment and then think about the structure that needs to happen for you to do it. Because intentions don't just happen. You have to have a structure in order to make the larger goals really come true. What does that spark for you?
I'm quitting my job Friday.
Quitting your job Friday? Wow.
Well, I already gave notice, so Friday's my last day.
Okay.
I'm making a big leap so that I
That's-
can focus on this. do
Good.
some other projects. Yeah.
Okay. And then what structure do you need to be able to follow that through? Quitting is one thing, but what will you do with all of that free time?
I need to get into a routine. I need
Mhm.
to, not the same routine I had at my job, but similarly, right? I have to treat it like it's a job. So I have to make sure I put the hours in and prioritize correct, most efficiently, I guess.
Yeah.
And then actually work those hours on that, right?
Yeah, treating your coaching business like a job is important. Again, it's a commitment. It's not just like, well, I don't really feel very much like connecting with people today. Oh, I don't know, I'll do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's your job. You have to go to work. Yeah.
Right.
Who else wants to share something? We covered a lot of concepts tonight. I'd love to hear what's percolating for you or the one that you feel like is going to help you the most in the upcoming weeks.
So I have one that was percolating, and then Amy, it was inspired by what you said too. I have to shift to the belief that I can be human and a freaking amazing coach.
Hmm.
Because there is a part of me that really believes you can't be a coach if you're not walking that walk. You can't be a coach if you haven't achieved that yourself. You can't. And I know logically that's not true, but I live my business like it is. So I can be human and an amazing coach.
That's a good takeaway. Who else? Which one of these concepts are you going to put into place?
Well, you just mentioned this briefly, but I wrote it down. Like, I need to revisit my vision, because I realize when I look at my life now, this is the vision I had 2 years ago. I'm in it right now. Like, this is it. I'm down to the schedule and what I'm making and everything. But now my vision needs to expand. So I'm feeling kind of uninspired. And I think that's because my vision needs to get much bigger.
That's all about creating your created future instead of a default future. So you're living, when we met a while ago at this point, what you're living right now is what you wanted, and you pulled that in, and now it's time one more time. What's the next thing to create and to pull in? That's the fun part too, is we constantly get to harness in our future self into today. Tara, what about you?
I'm just very inspired with what Carrie said. And I definitely want to work on my vision, to work on, my future self and bringing that forward and stepping into my role as coach.
Good. And what about you, Adam?
So I like what Carrie W said about having to get into or be surrounded in that room, or maybe it was a combination of what the two of you said, but being in the room with the people that have more resources. And I tend to surround myself with the people that'll drink a few beers and go fishing. And I have exposure to people in all walks of life, and just the whole, you are the average of the three people you spend the most time with. I need to sort of up level that.
Mm-hmm. Good. If you all decide to go all in for the next 30 days, really all in as a professional, you will find that you're comparing yourself less because you'll be doing your coaching business. Many times when we're comparing ourselves, it's because we're not really doing our coaching business to the fullest. We're doing it, but we haven't gone all in. We didn't say the new price. We still have our own open loops where not working with a coach of our own or the coach that we really want to be working with. We're still giving ourselves excuses. And so when that's happening, I really encourage you to dive in. If you do that for 30 days from now till the next first Wednesday, it will be amazing to see what shifts for you. What really shifts for you just by, I'm not going to worry about what so-and-so coach is doing. I'm going to do what I'm doing. And I'm going to see how that works for me. I'm going to say this new scary price. And even if they say no, I'm going to be okay with that. And I'm not going to say, oh, just kidding, I'm going to discount it $10,000 because that was really my price. I just was on this crazy call and she said I should do this. You know, you're gonna stay with your center and see what happens. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Where are you going for 3 weeks?
Lake Tahoe for a week. I'm gonna marry my sister-in-law. I mean, I'm not marrying her, I'm their officiant. And then Hawaii for 2 weeks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. Any questions or comments?
Just thank you for this. I feel
Mhm.
so much more inspired. Like I've been feeling uninspired, and right now I'm like, ooh, all right. Like, what's all in? What's my vision? How
Yeah.
do I stop just putting these intentions everywhere and not doing anything about them? So this is good. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, put a commitment with an intention and let's see what happens. Carrie, you're really a manifester. I've watched you. You're so much a manifester that if you have clear vision and you go all in, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah. Any last parting words?
Thank you for me.
Go ahead.
You're welcome, Amy.
I'm excited to sit down now and think about what does all in look like for the next 30 days. What does
Mhm.
all in look like for my business? What does all in look like for my marriage? And what does all in look like for my health?
Yeah, and maybe friendship.
That'll be next time.
Okay. Okay. I just had an intuitive.
Because I also just realized that my closest friend has never worked with a coach.
There
So
you go.
what does that say about
Yeah, that's
our
interesting.
belief in each other?
Okay. Send me
So-
what you come up with.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. So good to see you. I'll see you next month. Next month, my book coach is going to come and be our speaker. So for anyone who has ever wanted to write a book, thinking about writing a book, she's going to talk about the story inside that everybody has and how to actually get that down on paper. Okay, you guys all have a great night and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take care,
Thank
everybody.
you very much.
Thanks, Gretchen.
You're welcome.